I'm going to get right to the elephant in the room because it's something that I think most of us, I can't say all of us with 100% certainty, but most of us don't really give a shit because this ship is sailed. The only reason I cared about anything regarding Daniel Snyder and the investigation was because there was an outside chance that it was going to force him to sell the team. Once I saw how they were handling this investigation from the very beginning, I'm talking about from the jump. I told you guys when the article came out, and that was the first time we thought maybe we could get rid of his ass. And the article came out. I told you guys immediately thereafter. Literally, I read the article and I came on live that night and I said, guys, that's not enough. He's not going anywhere. Sorry. For those of you getting your hopes up, he's not going anywhere. And this investigation from the jump smelt fishy. Okay? Investigation. We have to start putting that in air quotes. Investigation. Smelt fishy. And I told you guys as much from the word go when the NFL told Washington, hey, you handle this. And then Washington said, okay, we'll handle this. We'll hire our own investigators to do the digging and find out what's going on and have them report back to me being Daniel Snyder. I said, well, shit, if the NFL is going to tell Washington they can handle the investigation, that pretty much tells you they're taking a laissez-faire approach. Hands off, you guys take care of this. Almost like the NCAA with teams. Hey, don't make us get involved because if we get involved, we slapping hoes around and shit. Take care of this. And usually teams will sanction themselves because they don't want the NCAA sniffing around in their business because they know it's a lot more dirt in there where that came from. And if they let the NCAA in, shit could get really ugly fast. So they handle it themselves and they take away some scholarships and they say, hey, we're going to ban ourselves from the bowl game this year and maybe next year. And that's that. Washington was told, handle the investigation. And then when there was public backlash for the league saying, hey, you handle the investigation, then Washington turns around and says, hey, we're going to let the league take over. I think it's in the best interest of everybody if the league take over this investigation, which is what the league told Washington to say after the league got pushback from the over 40 women that stepped up and over 40 people, I should say, wasn't all women, that stepped up and said, this is bullshit. You can't do that. And so the league felt pressure and they told Washington, hey, publicly address this by telling everyone you're going to turn this investigation back over to us, which is what should have happened in the first place. That's when I knew, well, this is not a real investigation. You're going to give the team that's in question the opportunity to hire the people that's actually going to do the investigation. Right. And this is going to be a real investigation. Absolutely. Got it. So when it comes out that there is no report, which there clearly was a report. Okay, the junkies had it. That's why the league, they never actually denied the reports and what was founded in it. They just said, we haven't received that yet. The junkies had it. They told us what Beth Wilkinson's recommendation was for the team, for the league. The recommendation was for Daniel Snyder to sell the organization. That was her recommendation. The NFL wanted no parts of that. As a matter of fact, they took that however long report that she wrote and recommendations included, they burned that, threw that right in the fireplace. And they said she gave us an oral breakdown of what should be done. Right. So what did the junkies have? Some made up report with specific recommendations inside? No, I trust that the junkies had a legitimate report that stated Daniel Snyder should be forced to sell. That's her recommendation. However, the league not only disregarded that, buried it, burned it, whatever you want to call it. They then took it a step further and went ahead and gave Daniel Snyder, the very man that Beth Wilkinson in her report stated should be forced to sell the organization. They then doubled down and gave that man like $850 million or whatever the hell the number was. Okay? We won't get into specifics. It's more money than they are supposed to be able to give him by rule. Okay? In their bylaws, it's more money than they're supposed to be able to give an owner, front him, to be able to purchase the remaining percentage of the team. So they exceeded that amount, gave that to him so that he could purchase the remaining shares of the organization so he could be the sole owner of the Washington football team. If that's not collusion, if that's not cover up, I don't know what is. But we saw this coming a mile away. I told you this wasn't going to. And honestly, I really don't care. I'm just taking all of this in because people seemed outraged. They seemed surprised. You know, some of the people involved seemed surprised. And I'm like, come on now. You guys saw this a mile away. It felt like I was stealing signs. I took a peek back at the catcher. All right. I got teammates in the dugout tapping the trash can once for a fastball, coughing twice for an off-speed breaking ball. I know what's coming. Everybody knew what was coming. I just got to sit back and not miss. Honestly, if truth be told, the reason I'm not dressed in all black like the Omen tonight is because I was terrified that they would still find a way to screw us and take draft picks away. When I saw that the punishment was only, because look, Daniel Snyder wasn't going to be forced to sell. We already knew that. That ship sailed in March. That ship sailed a long time ago. That ship sailed, when did this investigation get underway? September? It was right around the start of the season, I think. September, October. Whenever the investigation first got underway, the ship sailed, okay? When the league told Washington to handle this investigation, they're going to allow Washington to handle this internally and do their own investigation. That's when the ship sailed, whenever that was, September, October. I was still fearful that they would say, all right, here's your punishment. X amount of dollar fine. We're going to dock you some draft picks. I was like, look, don't hurt the fans. You know, we're the losers in all of this if you take draft picks away. Don't hurt us. We didn't do anything wrong. You want to hurt Daniel Snyder? Slap a fine on his ass and let's keep it. You can suspend him. What does that even mean? Like, I've heard people outraged. Is he going to be suspended? For what? For what? What does that even mean as an owner? What, is he going to watch the game from his private yacht in Greece? Who gives a shit if he's suspended? It doesn't make a difference. Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard when owners get suspended. Okay, so they can't watch the game from their private box. Ooh. Who gives a shit if he's suspended or not? So that really didn't make one bit of difference. But the league did make a change, which is why, look, all this shit was done in phases. Everything they did, it was like a rollout. It was almost like an album release. And they're marketing all of this stuff. This felt like a rollout by Washington and the NFL. Do you find it coincidental that just 2 days ago, Washington names Tanya Snyder the CEO of the organization? She's the new CEO. She gets this title. There's an article in the Wall Street Journal. Daniel Snyder doesn't talk to anybody. He gives the Wall Street Journal this exclusive interview. You don't think all of these things line up with the timeline of them rolling out this final, resolution to this investigation that's been going on for almost a year? You don't think it's coincidental that he does, this recluse of an owner does a whole Wall Street Journal exclusive where he names Tanya Snyder the CEO, and then 2 days later, they're saying that he's going to be handling things off the field, such as the stadium, and she's going to be handling the day-to-day operations. You don't find that a little bit coincidental? Anyway, I digress. They didn't hit us with any draft picks. They fined Daniel Snyder $10 million. As far as I'm concerned, I could give a shit. As long as we didn't get docked any draft picks, I say play on, okay? And for those of you out there that were hurt by the organization and you put your neck out on the line and you told your story at some risk involved in doing so, maybe you signed a confidentiality agreement, an NDA, and you had to break that to break your silence. Whatever the case may be, there was backlash. People are sending you death threats because there are crazy people out there. Whatever the case may be, I apologize to you people out there that were affected by this organization and you had a story to tell. And there may have been some PTSD or some trauma that you have endured since. I apologize. And the outcome you were looking for, you weren't going to get it. And you should have known that. And again, I sincerely apologize. Not that it matters, but I'll apologize on behalf of the organization. But at the end of the day, I'm going to keep it $150 with you. As long as they didn't dock us any draft picks, Daniel Snyder wasn't going to be ousted as owner. Hell, they doubled down on him and gave him the money to buy the rest of the organization. He wasn't going anywhere. You know, there were still people holding out this shred of hope. Well, maybe they want him to get the entire organization so he can sell it as a whole entity. No, that's not why they did it, okay? It's a good old boys club. They're not kicking one of their own out unless there's a smoking gun. There better be a gun and bullets. They better have ballistics. They better have absolute 100% proof that he was involved in something that they cannot have in their league, like Jerry Richardson. If it's not one of those situations where there's gun, there's evidence, and they've collected all of it, and you're guilty, they're not going to get rid of one of their own. So, we didn't get docked any draft picks. As far as I'm concerned, I'm done. I feel good. We got away unscathed as a fan base. It may not have been the outcome, and people are killing this oral report. Come on, guys. You knew what this was. You knew this was a grade A top choice, 100% cover-up from the jump. So why are you even surprised about any of this stuff? Anyway, first of all, I'll just say this last thing. For those that are outraged by the lack of a report, the fact that the NFL at the very beginning said, we're going to let the Washington football team handle this internally. They're going to handle this investigation. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works, okay? And you know that. You're smart enough. You know that that's not how this works. When Ray Rice had an issue, the Ravens tried to handle it internally. The video got out, and then the NFL said, hey, we got it from here, okay? There's nothing you can do. We told you to handle this shit. You didn't get rid of the video. You didn't handle it. We're going to take over from here. 93 pages later, there's this dossier and there's this big report, and they said this is the punishment. This is our findings, and this is the punishment. Deflategate, they didn't even find anything. You think they told the Patriots, you handle this? No, they said, hey, no, we got this. They hired Ted Wells, and he wrote a 200 and some odd page manifesto. All to say that, hey, we didn't find shit. And they still suspended Tom Brady. But those are players. They're pawns, okay? You can sacrifice pawns. We're talking about an owner here, man. We talking about a damn knight. We're not talking about a pawn. We're talking about a king. They ain't sacrificing a king, man. You crazy? There is no report here. There's nothing to see. Move on. I digress. How y'all doing tonight, man? I'm sorry for starting off the show on such a serious tone. I just had to get that out of the way because I don't like talking about this shit. If this is a road that leads to nowhere, if we're not getting rid of Daniel Snyder, then what's the point of having this discussion? We're talking in circles. We talked about the same shit 10 million times. Why? Let's just move on to something else. That's how I feel. You know how I feel. So, we didn't get docked any draft picks. I'm done. Hands are clean. They're washed. Let's go.
Louie.